Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know it's election time because they're starting to say that it's Russia, Russian interference, they're propaganda and they're all after us. You can't trust the media. You have to only listen to us. Their agents are out there doing that again. And so I'm here to kind of break this down and let's talk about what's going on. So if you've been paying attention the last few days, there's been indictments set against Tim Pool, Chen, Tenet Media for taking Russian money to disseminate Russian propaganda, essentially. And so what they're saying is, oh, well, you took this money and you're following the Russians' orders and you're trying to just sow discord and disinformation against the American populace, and we can't have that. On the one hand, taking Russian money, that's dubious, and we'll talk about that a bit later here. But it kind of undermines the American people's ability to discern what is true and what's not. We're smart enough to know what's fact and what's fiction, and they keep undermining us. The government keeps telling us, no, we can't trust you. You can only listen to our agents. You can only listen to our media because you're too stupid to know what's right. So I want to kind of go over this, how this kind of started in my eyes. It started with Tim Pool. Let me just go over here. Tim Pool is suing Kamala Harris for defamation. He's saying that, let me just go down this article. It's from the Post Millennial here. So it says Tim Pool is taking legal action against the Kamala Harris campaign for posting an out of context clip that claimed that Pool is calling for the death penalty against Democrats should Trump gain a second term in office. So Tim, he's got enough money to take her on, and he is not going to put up with it because it puts him in a bad light, which they'll probably use later on if he doesn't fight this. And so I don't blame him for doing this. I mean, it's going to cost him a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of stress, but he's willing to go through it. More power to him. A couple days later after this, like literally a day or two later, we get, come on, mouse. We get this article from the Daily Dot, which is a leftist website, but they're saying, oh, well, there is an indictment against Tim Pool, Tenet Media, Benny Johnson, Chen from the Department of Justice saying that Kamala Harris and all them are saying he's part of a Russian collusion, essentially, just like they did with Donald Trump. They're colluding with Russia to disseminate Russian propaganda from Russia Today or RT. And so they're saying, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. They're the vice president knowingly did this against him. Well, someone on Twitter, thankfully, posted the actual indictment. I read over a portion of it just to kind of know that it is politically motivated to an extent. The part that's not so good is accepting Russian money, essentially, or accepting money from a sanctioned entity is what's actually wrong here. So let's kind of go over that a little bit. Here's the indictment. So it's filed in the District of New York. I highlighted kind of the stuff in yellow that I think is stupid. And the part in green here is the actual important part, I think. So it says, after Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 22, RT, which is Russia Today, that's the state media arm of Russia, essentially, was sanctioned. That's the important part, sanctioned. Dropped by distributors, ultimately forced to cease formal operations in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. Let's get some water for the working man here. What does sanctions exactly mean? Well, working in banking, I worked with sanctioned stuff a lot. Basically, the United States government says, okay, these people, we don't like them for whatever reason. They're either doing terrorist activities or doing money laundering, something criminal, or we just flat out hate them for whatever reason. And so we'll block any sort of financial activity from them. And if it tries to come into our country or anyone that's has an American bank account, essentially, we'll block that and you could be subject up to charges because you're dealing with a sanctioned entity. It'd be like, I don't know, if someone from North Korea tried to send you money via a wire, it ain't going to come through because it's from North Korea. It's just a straight up get blocked. And then we're going to start asking you questions. It's a big no-no. You don't want to take money from sanctioned entities. So that's the really important part here. Sanctioned entities. Let's go over the parts that I think that are kind of questionable or politically motivated in yellow here. So I highlighted here. So we have these two people, Kostya Kalishnikov, a.k.a. Kostya, and Elena Afanasieva, a.k.a. Lena. I hope I pronounced that close. So they say many of these videos that these two published from this company they won't name contain commentary on events and issues in the United States, such as immigration, inflation, and other topics related to domestic and foreign policy. Oh, you mean, topics that everyone's interested in? You know how we have literally millions of immigrants flooding our border, inflation to where we can barely afford groceries and rent and basic necessities of life. You mean those things, those important things that clearly have to be Russian propaganda? Sure. Yeah, let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. While these views expressed in the videos are not uniform, the subject matter and content of the videos are often consistent with the government of Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core government of Russia interest, such as ongoing war in Ukraine. I can't read this seriously, because if we're saying that immigration and inflation are divisive topics that are going to weaken us, and that Russia's amplifying this, it's stupid on its face, because Russia is not the one that is causing this. The U.S. caused this, and everyone here is pissed off about it. It's not their fault that they're just highlighting your stupidity, U.S. government. All right, next one here. This lady, the last name's Kalishnikov and Afanasieva, plus their founders, work together to deceive, and that's important, let me underline that, to deceive, meaning that Chen, Tenet Media, all those people were deceived. That's kind of important, They just didn't say, oh yeah, we knowingly have done deals with you, sir. Let's take your money, and we're working together for communism or something. No, they were deceived. It's in the indictment itself. Who respectively have millions of followers on YouTube. These founders then contracted with Commentator 1 and Commentator 2. This is probably, Chen, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, one of those people, using their names and likenesses, leveraging their audiences for license and publication. Then they work together to mask. U.S. Company 1 is what they're labeling this Russian company that is laundering money into the U.S. because they can't do business under a Russian entity. So they have to launder the money into the U.S. That's what U.S. Company 1 is. So they've masked, these founders are working together to mask this money, this true source of funding by RT, which is Russia Today, by falsely portraying these commentators on YouTube. Like I said, it's probably Tim Pool, Chen, one of those people, that this Russian-sponsored company by a guy named Eduard Grigorian, who is in fact a fictional person. So we got a fake person sending Russian money to a U.S. company to deceive YouTubers, to sow discord, quote unquote, about inflation and immigration. Really? Now, on the one hand, I think the opinion part of this is absolutely stupid. We're smart enough to know what's truth from fiction. We can make up our own minds. If you don't like what they're saying, you don't have to listen to it. The problem, like I said, is this part. Accepting sanctioned money from a sanctioned entity. We don't like these people. You can't get money from these people. If you do, we confiscate it and charge you. This is the actual problem. The sanctioned money part. It's not the opinion part. The opinion parts just highlight how stupid the government is and how much they hate you. They hate you. They think you're stupid. They say that you can only take information from their sources, otherwise, it's not true. That is what they're actually telling you, and implicitly. The crime is the sanctioned money, though. So that's kind of what I wanted to highlight. There's a couple more things in here I thought was interesting. They have this entire, enormous network of covert projects bringing, media and public opinion, bringing truth to Western audiences. Well, if they're bringing us truth and it's actually true, then it doesn't matter where it comes from. Truth is truth. There is no your truth or my truth. The truth is the truth. It's not relative. It's either a fact or it's not. There is no such thing as alternative facts, as they like to gaslight you into thinking. There's another thing. They even reference Tucker Carlson in this indictment, although they don't name him, but we all know who they're talking about. It's on page 24 here. So it's here, 10, 12. So on February 15th, 2024, one of the Russian people, Helena, shared with this U.S. company taking Russian funds a video of a well-known political U.S. commentator, that's Tucker Carlson, visiting a grocery store in Russia. Do you remember that? We're not talking about in the 80s where, I forget who it was. It wasn't Gorbachev. It was someone else. Came to our U.S. grocery store and said, oh my God, look at all the choices they have here. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Tucker Carlson visiting a grocery store and saying, hey, these guys have it together here. Later that day, they said, they want me to post this. It feels just like we're shilling this content. We're being overt, where this is a little bit too on the nose, essentially. And they decided to put out this content anyways, showing, this is more evidence that it's Russian propaganda. All right. So, all in all here, I think that there's two things that are kind of going on. There's the fact that the government hates you. They want you to just believe what they only tell you, which, let's be fair, they've been doing that for decades now, so what else is new? On the other hand, it is a problem that these people are taking sanctioned money, and that was kind of the one thing I wanted to talk about as well. Why do we hate Russia? Like, why are they our enemies? We're not in a Cold War anymore. They aren't the USSR anymore. We aren't fighting each other. I'm not saying we have to like them, but we do a ton of trade with China, and China clearly doesn't like us. They're actively trying to have their own currency by forming with BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China. I was in Singapore. I don't know who the S is. But they're trying to form their own currency. They're actively fighting against us passively, but we still do tons of trade with them because they're cheap. Why can't we just do trade with Russia? Why do we hate Russia? I'm not saying they're good, but we're not the good guys either. America's not this bastion of moral rightness in the world. We do our best. We're not evil, I would say, but we're not the good guys either. So I don't see why we can't just get along. I don't understand. Can someone in the comments tell me why we should hate Russia? Like, why are we enemies with Russia? Honestly, I'm not saying we have to hate each other. I'm not saying we have to, be buddy all the time, because, Putin's still a bad dude, but we do tons of deals with Saudi Arabia, and they throw gays off of roofs. So someone help me out here. I don't understand why this is a problem to begin with. All right, guys. Hopefully this helped you guys out a bit. Y'all have a good one.